So now we're going to route the belt. So for this, we'll need our length of belt, we'll need the tensioner end, and we'll also need the two pieces of the belt clamp, and this is the static end. We'll also need an M3 by 16 and M3 by 20, two M3 nuts, and an M5 by 20 screw and an M5 nut. The length of this M5 screw is not so critical, but this is what we're going to use to tension up the OSSM. Okay, so first, let's take our belt tensioner. We have this bar in the middle that is what the belt wraps around. I'm just going to drop a screw in through there. This just gives it a bit of reinforcement, makes it a bit stronger. I'll put a nut on the other side. Don't have to really tighten this up too much. This is just to hold this piece from collapsing. And then we'll take our belt, and with the teeth facing the inside, we'll fold it in half. And then we'll just feed both ends through. So one goes on the bottom there, comes out there, and I'll feed the other one through the top. You can kind of pull them both through here. So now the teeth, when they come out, are facing each other. My belt really wants to curl up here. And we'll just pull the belt through like this. We actually want this belt with the teeth facing down to be longer. And so I'll just shorten this up a bit till maybe we're something around here with about an inch of belt length left. And we'll pull it through. And so that's nice. We just have a bit of belt engagement like that. And then the rest of our belt with the teeth facing down. And we'll slide this onto the back of the rail here. Which end you put this on isn't a huge deal. You can always reverse the direction of your motor using the settings the switches on your motor. And it changes a little bit the way that the default software suggests you either start fully extended or fully retracted. The default OSSM setup is with the tensioner on this end and then the end effector or dildo end on this side. So I'll take this and we'll slide the belt. It's hard to show you what I'm doing. Let me reposition this. We'll slide this like that. I'm just gonna slip that in onto the end of the rail like that. You want to just make sure you're pulling the belt snug and it's not pulling up at the top here. So this looks quite nice to me. That's on there quite nice and tight. And then we can also, this spot here is to drop an M5 nut into. So with an M5 nut in there, we can then put our M5 screw in the back here. And just hold it in there for now. But tightening this causes this end of the belt clamp to slide away from the rail up like that. And that pulls the belt tighter. And so you can see when I pushed this in, it caused this little loop of belt. We're just gonna wanna pull that snug by pulling on the belt here, get that snugged up. So now that we have that, we can take a look at how the belt is routed. So the belt will come along the rail like this. It'll go past that idler. We'll wrap it around the pulley on the shaft, back under the second idler. So that's sort of the shape there. And now we'll mount the static clamp. And where you put this clamp depends on how much stroke length you want. So this is where you essentially determine mechanically how much extension you get from the OSSM. So if we were to put the clamp way at the end of the rail, we'd have a long stroke. If we were to put the clamp, say, very close here, now in this scenario, we'd only have this much, maybe 2 or 3 inches of stroke. So this is up to you and how long your rail is. You do want to be mindful that you leave some available rod at the end for your end effectors. The default thread attachment takes two of these mounting holes. And so then we would we could mount the belt clamp on the third one. That would give us the maximum stroke length on this particular rail. So for this example, let's do that. And so these last two holes are taken up by the end effector. Let's put our clamp on this third last hole. And so the way that I like to do this is I will take the belt clamp and I'll route the belt through the clamp like that. So it'll sort of look like this. And this is how you'll set the length. And then this piece with the tooth engages the teeth of the belt when you clamp it down. And so we'll set this on our third hole that we have chosen. We'll put our screw through here. That goes on there. And then the top piece slides on top of that. And this sort of sandwiches that whole assembly there. Before we do that, I just want to put the nut in place on the top of this assembly. You can see that here as well, there's just a little bit of filament on the inside. I'm just going to take a 2.5 millimeter wrench, clear that out so it's easier to pass the screw through. And let me just clear it right out of the top. There we go. Now we'll take our nut and we'll push that in. You can see this is also a very tight fit. I'm just going to push this down on a table, put a little bit of force there. Now it's seated nicely in there. So once again, third last hole for us. You can put this wherever you'd like to set your stroke length. Put that through. We'll feed our belt up into this clamp like that. And you don't have to worry too much about how much belt you pull through there for now. We'll get that bolt threaded to start. And obviously this is not the right size of bolt. This is a 16. And do we want a 20? Okay, so we have our hole here, got our fastener. Let's put our clamp in and get the top piece here. I'll just try and catch that thread first. And sometimes you want to just pull down. See, we're pulling that nut down into its lowest seated position. And then I'll back it out to give us a bit of slack, but it's still engaged. And now we should be able to pull the belt through like this. And just keep an eye out. I lost my entire belt routing, no problem. We can just wrap that around the pulley, then the idler again. There you go. Move it back and forth once or twice to get it seated. And then we'll just pull up the extra through here. And so with that, normally I'll have one hand, I'll just give this a bit of a pull. Let me show that. This is the nicest way. I'll kind of give this a little pull. And we'll take our Allen key and then clamp that down. There you go. So now we have our belt routed, and it's not particularly tight. Actually, this one's not too bad, but no reason it would be particularly tight at this moment. And that's what this screw is for. So we can take this screw and screw it in. And what this will do is it will start to pull this piece away from the rod, stretching out the belt and adding a bit of tension. You really just barely want this finger tight. You don't want to put an Allen key on that. Absolutely, you can put way too much force on there. So just finger tight will give you a nice amount of slack. No slack in here, nice and tight. If you do find your belt skips or loses any teeth skipping over the pulley, you can check the tension here and give it a little bit more. You don't want to crank that down because it'll put a lot of force both on the motor shaft and on this piece here. It'll want to pull it inside. So that's the belt routing with the static clamp and the tensioner.